Hello and welcome to the Boost Over Ball podcast, your go-to place for everything Rocket League with your hosts, K-Cube, AJ Binky, and Red. So lean forward, lock in, and get ready to go Boost Over Ball.
Hello and welcome to the Boost Over Ball podcast. To listeners new and old, hello and welcome to the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Kyle, K-Cube, and today I'm joined by Flash Pandy. How's it going?
Hey, it's been a minute. Happy to be back. We got some LCS to talk about. New season tomorrow. Man, it's a good day.
It certainly is. So today we will be opening up by talking about the EU Open Qualifier number 6 and also taking you around the world with OCE and APAC also wrapping up the last of the Open Qualifiers for the season. We'll be touching base on who we will see in London, which teams have qualified for Worlds already, some clinching situations, and we will finish off by talking about our top 10 London major teams list. We may have some arguments here, and then on next week's episode, we're hoping to do an interview, and we will also be trying to talk to you about some of the updates that are supposed to go live on the 5th, and the new season, and our thoughts on that. So, we will have a lot to talk about over the next couple of weeks as we build up to London. But without further ado, are you ready to jump into our recap of EU Open Qualifier number 6?
It was a wild weekend. Let's do it.
Okay, so starting off, we have our teams that are going 3-0 are BDS and Vitality. Our teams going 3-1 are Luna Galaxy, Carmine Corps, and Oxygen. And our teams going 3-2 and just squeaking their way into playoffs are Gentle Mates, Jobless, and Endpoint. Secondly, our teams going 2-3 are Novo Esports and GridServe Resolve. Teams going 1-3. Oh, and 100%, sorry, also going 2 and 3. Teams going 1 and 3 are Solary, Suh, and Low Block. And lastly, our two teams getting swept out are Wild and Team 3.
Not gonna lie, pretty surprised to see Gentlemates go 3-2 of how dominant they have been. But given the teams they pulled for the day, I'm not entirely surprised that they struggled a little bit. But we had some shockers. I can't lie, but it's domination from the top as always. I don't know Luna Galaxy, but I'll let you continue on your point.
So, as you said, Oxygen I think is one that stands out to me. They had a good day. Their only loss coming to Vitality, but they're able to sweep Gentle Mates, which I think is a big result for them. I mean, Gentle Mates, people have been talking about it. Gibbs has talked about it. Johnny has talked about it on stream that they are most notably a better LAN team than they are an online team, and it kind of shows a little bit here. So I will be interested to see what they can do in London as they've secured their spot. But we knew that coming in. Also, Luna Galaxy is Acronic, formerly of Team Liquid, Tox, and Atomic. So EU Atomic.
Gotcha. Good to know.
Yeah. So
Knowledge to me.
This will be a common theme, at least for me, throughout our recap here, but Luna Galaxy had nothing to play for. They did not have a chance to make the major. They did not have a chance to make Worlds. It was not going to happen for them, based on how late to the game they were. This split, this being the first time that they made it into playoffs. Most notably finishing 10th in qualifier number 5, but I'll be interested to see what happens with them and with some other teams that their season is now over, right? And if we're going off of the format that we've had this year, it looks like they're going to be in off season until January, which seems weird that's 6 months away, but that's kind of what we're looking at.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something that we're not used to, given the quite lengthy break we had waiting for this season. I kind of wish the events were a little bit more spread apart, because it's a lot of Rocket League squished into the first 6 months of the year, and realistically, from almost March to June is very full. So it's going to be interesting to see how those rosters might move. I mean, obviously, we've seen that EU was crazy dominant this year, and I think we'll still continue to do that, even though G2 got to the grand finals at the major. But it's interesting to see how some of these teams stack up against each other, and especially seeing some teams like being an absolute nightmare for Carmine Corp, which no, I don't think anyone expected going into the second split or the second half of the season. But I mean, seeing some of these teams and how they perform and how they're stacking up, especially these teams that like have nothing to lose when it comes to the sixth qualifier, putting up fights against teams like BDS, putting up a fight against Carmine Corps. I mean, you got Luna Galaxy taking BDS to Game 5 and qualifying at 3-1. A team that's not going to make a major, not going to make the Worlds. I mean, a team that's going to be competitive. They're basically just playing the party spoiler, and it's cool to see that, meaning that they're coming to fight for the next season. So it's a long time before the next season for these teams, but it's certainly kind of a glimpse into what their future plans are, hopefully at least.
Yeah, and I think we'll start to see maybe a little bit more like contracts being signed instead of like a full year contract, just doing it like till like through September. Because as of right now, that's what the World Championships are. But, you know, we may see a format change with, you know, a lengthy off season, and now like Blast is like fully entrenched as the, you know, the hosts or like the production team that are in charge of putting on RL Esports. So we may see some format changes. We may see some improvements to the current format, but that is more of a conversation for our downtime, our 2-month downtime that we have between Major Number 2 and the World Championships. But coming back to Swiss, we kind of see a pattern here, right? So Luna Galaxy lose to BDS, who go 3-0. Carmine Court lose to Luna Galaxy, who go 3-1. Oxygen loses to Vitality. Gentlemates loses to Vitality and Oxygen, where it kind of seems like, at least to me, we kind of have a top 5, maybe a top 6 kind of forming with BDS, Vitality, Luna Galaxy, Carmine Core, Oxygen, and Gentlemates. Unfortunately for them, Luna Galaxy are a little bit late to the party, so, you know, we'll have to wait and see on that one. But we'll talk about it at the end, but what Oxygen needs to do to take the world spot away from Carmine Core because they missed qualifier number 5. But, you know, other than kind of those top teams, was there anything else that stuck out to you about the Swiss stage, or are we ready to jump into playoffs?
I think we're ready to jump in. I mean, one of my favorite players, I mentioned it before we came on, Wild, or Uncle Bill from Wild. It's fun to see him compete. I don't know the situation, but I know that Uncle Bill was either the coach or the sub or something.
The coach, yeah.
So seeing him knocking around on the field was pretty fun. But as far as the competition goes, and it's something we'll probably talk about a little bit later. It's crazy to see a team like Carmine Core win the first 3 events of the season and still be almost not making the Worlds. I know I just tied up my words by saying that, but like winning the first 3 events and almost not making Worlds, contingent that Oxygen doesn't place top 2, is crazy to me. And I will kind of dive into it a little bit later, but seeing the results of this are incredible. And I don't know. That's what I love about competition, especially in this game.
Yeah, for sure. And like moving into playoffs, and I'll do the quarterfinals, and then you can take semifinals and grand finals results, and then we'll kind of talk about it. But we have Team BDS taking down Endpoint 4-3. We have Carmine Core taking down Oxygen 4-2. We have Vitality losing to Jobless 4-3, and we have Luna Galaxy beating Gentlemates 4-1.
BDS 4-1 over Carmine Corp in the semifinal 1. Luna Galaxy 4-2 over Jobless in semifinal 2, and then who guessed BDS 4-3 Luna Galaxy in grand final. We've been talking about this Luna Galaxy team that's just like this up and coming scare, I guess, for these other teams. It sucks that they're late to the party, because I would have loved to see them compete previously and maybe have a shot at Worlds, shot at the major. And because, I mean, making it to the finals, taking BDS into Game 7, beating Carmine Corp and Swiss, that's a team that's ready to compete. And like you said, there's a pretty defined top 5, top 6, and I think they're definitely shaping up to be in there with the results here.
I mean, they're certainly, like, they talk about it in like conventional sports like hockey, like baseball, like football. Like, they're peaking at the right time. Unfortunately for them, it was a little too late. Right, so like had they made playoffs in, you know, qualifier number 5, had they, you know, won a couple more games in qualifier 4, this is a different conversation, right? And maybe, someone like an Oxygen or a Gentle Mates doesn't have as easy of a time, making it in as they did. But I mean, and they've certainly looked good, and taking BDS to Game 7 is no small feat, especially for a team that, pride, points, prize money, all that stuff, but relatively they have nothing to play for. You know what I mean? Like their season's going to be over on Sunday night, whether they win the event or not.
That's when you just kind of play. You got to play the party pooper, just knocking out teams like Carmine Corps. I mean, you'd think, and it's easy to think on it for a team that's won the first 3 events of the year, like, oh, this is a team that's got nothing to play for. They're not making a major or whatever. They're going to be an easy win. But no, that's the point of these teams that are good and didn't make a major or didn't make Worlds, is they're going to play to knock these teams out and spoil the party. And that's what I love seeing from Luna Galaxy. Again, it's a team that I'm not familiar with, but knowing that they're playing that role in this, being the villain against the blue wall, I love to see it. I love to see it.
I mean, and also part of it, and I know that you've experienced it because I've experienced it, right? If you're so far the underdogs, or you have nothing to play for, or something like that, you can play free. You can play your game. There's no pressure. That's the place to be, in my opinion. I'd prefer to be there than be fully under the microscope, right? Like Carmine Corps is, especially knowing that regardless of what happens in this event, that they're not going to make the major.
It's a tough position to be in, right? Because you're a team that is not expected to perform, but when you do, the world goes crazy, and yeah, that's cool. It's cool on both sides, or there's problems on one side and it's cool on the other. On the cool side, you upset all these crazy teams, you knock this team out of a major, whatever, and you're this team that's like, wow, this Luna Galaxy team is the new team in EU, but at the same time, people are like, oh, this team should never have won. It's a Cinderella run. That's a fluke, whatever. And at that point, it kind of sucks because it's invalidated in a way, but at the same time, it's more fuel for the team to stay together and kick some butt next season. So I mean, I'm with you on that. I mean, I would love to be the underdog 10 times out of 10. It's cool being like that villain that Carmine Corp is, but at the same time, being that team that comes up and kind of like that. I call it the sleeper build of Rocket League teams that aren't expected to win, but do because they're just good.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And I've been sitting on this joke for a couple minutes now because you mentioned it, right? Like the blue wall, they must not be load bearing. They seem to crack under pressure, and I don't know if that's it's kind of been a constant thing, right? And I hate to say they underperformed in Major 1, but they finished top 4, but they lose to Gentle Mates, who eventually wins, right? But they spent the entire first split beating Gentle Mates, right? They won they swept through the regionals. They're everyone widely considered to be the number 1 with a bullet team in the world, and they finished top 4.
I don't know if you saw Vatira's tweet from the other day. Did you see that?
I might have. I'm not sure.
It's right before Sunday or Saturday, whenever they go into the quarterfinals, and Vatira tweeted out, and he was like, thank you all for supporting us. This is the most nervous I've ever been in my entire life. All this pressure. I'm struggling to perform mentally. I hope that we can perform and clinch Worlds or something like that. He was like, sorry to those that we've let down or something like that. And he was showing that he was scared going into Saturday about possibly not making Worlds because of a poor performance this weekend. And I've never seen something out of somebody that only a few short weeks ago were saying, yeah, nobody's better than me. I'm the best player in the world. It's pretty nuts.
Yeah, I mean, and selfishly as a human being and as a fan of Rocket League, I like seeing that, right? Because even if you're saying oh, I'm the best player in the world, no one can touch me, you still have to feel the pressure. Everybody does.
Yeah. And
for mental health, for healthy lifestyle, it's good to admit when you're feeling stressed, when you're giving people a glimpse behind the curtain, and at the end of the day, that's what people want, right? Like watching like ESPN 30 for 30 does a lot of that stuff, like where they go, kind of behind the athlete. They do some cool interviews and some cool shows, and people love seeing that. It's the same thing with Rocket League. The reason people get behind teams, get behind players, is because of the personality that they're able to show. And his fans getting to see that is, I think, only a positive for the growth of the humans that play Rocket League.
I love it. I mean, I'm interested to see. Obviously, I think that's what everybody's interested to see, is how Oxygen performs, because that determines the fate of Karmine Corp, and we'll talk about it in a minute. But I can't imagine being in Vatira's shoes, or in anyone for Karmine Corp's shoes, winning the first 3 events of the season. I've said it 3 times now, but winning the first 3 events of the season, and now there's nothing you can do but sit and hope that Oxygen flops. And that must be a demoralizing feeling, knowing that your fate in September results on another team.
Yeah, that you can't control your destiny.
Right. And even though you had a historic start to the season, a couple bad weeks in a row could just ruin the rest of your year. And the amount of stress that must be is something, no amount of stress that I would wish to endure, especially playing this game or in general, because especially being at that age, man, can you imagine being like a 17-year-old, 18-year-old? You got millions, hundreds of thousands of people being like, oh, this guy sucks because he got knocked out in top 24 and he's not going to make Worlds even though he won the first 3 events. That's got to be taxing, man. Gotta be taxing.
And
wouldn't want to be me.
Like, Karmine Corp could not have dreamt up a better, like, draw for them in this playoff bracket, getting to play Oxygen first round, right? The team in direct competition with them. Because I think if Oxygen beats them there, then they need top 4 to make major.
Much more doable.
Yes. Obviously. And then, Karmine Corp comes up against BDS, and Gentlemates loses round 1, and Vitality loses round 1, right? All the people in that group are dropping points. So I believe if Karmine Corp wins the event, Oxygen has to win the event to put them into a tiebreaker. I
mean, that seriously could have been. I'd be interested to see what happens if Karmine Corp and Oxygen were on separate sides of the bracket. Because I'm not saying that one side was stronger than the other, but realistically, having Oxygen, Karmine Corp, and BDS on one side of the bracket is pretty stacked. But at the same time, you get to see Vitality and Gentlemates and this new Luna Galaxy team on the other side too. But with how well,
there's definitely a side of the bracket that I would prefer to be on.
Correct,
and it's not the top.
And it is not the top where both those teams were. But I'd be interested to see what happens if we had like a Karmine Corp Gentlemates start, or an Oxygen versus Jobless, or if both teams would have made it through. I mean, who knows? But we got what happens, and we just have, it's only a waiting game to see what happens with Oxygen at Landon. Yeah, for sure. So I think we've kind of we've talked a lot of this result to death. I think it's time we jump around the world. We just have 2 regions to wrap up that wrapped up their qualifier. We talked about the teams that made top 16 the last time. So in OCE, our teams that made top 4 are Power, Ground Zero, Pioneers, and Chiefs. And the grand finals, Power take down Pioneers 4-1. With the top 4 finish, the Chiefs have secured their spot in London. We will talk about that again at the end. And last but certainly not least, in APAC, the teams that made the top 4 are Elevate, Detonator, Gladiators, and Sailing Esports, with Gladiators sweeping Elevate in the grand finals 4-0 to take their spot at the Major and Worlds. But with those 2 results out of the way, now we can talk about some of the fun stuff. The teams that are headed to London. You wanna give us a rundown on the teams that are headed out to Landon, to the Copper Box? It's gonna be a blast. I can't ask for a better lineup of teams, man. EU representing BDS, Vitality, who would have guessed, Gentlemates, and Oxygen. You may be wondering, where's Karmine Corp? Well, take a look at Qualifier 5, and that'll be your answer. NA has G2, Gen G, SSG, and OG. All the Gs coming out for NA. Power and Chiefs being OCE. Then Furia and Secret for Sam, which is interesting that Complexity isn't there, but we'll talk about that. Mina representing Falcons and Twisted Minds. Gladiators coming from APAC, and Team Mobula from SSA.
Well, kind of from SSA, but yeah.
Playing at SSA.
Fair.
Traveling from elsewhere.
Yeah, jeez. But Team Mobile is actually a full Spanish team, so like, not too far of a travel for them to make it to London.
I'm pretty sure 2 of the top 3 teams in SSA are Spaniards.
Yeah, Drift Queens is Portuguese, and Team Mobile is Spanish, and Limitless still holds the World Championship spot by 27 points.
I don't foresee that changing. I don't see Mobula making top 8.
Yeah, this Team Mobula team is led by VK Salen, who we've seen compete in EU a couple years ago, but if VK Salen isn't good enough to get on a top EU team, then they're certainly not going to be good enough to compete at Worlds, in my personal opinion.
It is interesting to see, though, a team that literally didn't play in SSA in the entire first 3 events win the next 3 and make the major. It's like the opposite of Karmine Corp, literally. Yeah. You're also playing in a, no offense to SSA, but you're playing in a region that
an emerging region.
It's not quite as competitive as others. But still coming in halfway through the competition and stealing away a spot from I would be willing to say, the undisputed champions of SSA, Limitless, is pretty interesting.
It certainly is. But we now we have some teams that have guaranteed their spot at the World Championships, and from EU, that being Gentle Mates as the first seed, BDS and Vitality. That's subject to change based on results from major number 2. But as of now, this is what the seeding is, and these teams are guaranteed to go no matter what happens. But they can improve their positioning depending on their results. From NA, we have the whole region set as G2, Gen G, Space Station, and OG. From OCE, we have Power. From SAM, we have Furia. From MENA, we have Falcons. In APAC, we have Gladiators. So with that, there are 4 spots at large currently. So 4 spots that are like dependent on results from major number 2 to take effect. And that would be the 4th spot from EU, the 2nd spot from OCE, from SAM, and from MENA. So anything, formerly the Rule 1 team minus Okhalid, currently holds the 2nd world spot in MENA over Twisted Minds by 5 points. But as we stated earlier, Twisted Minds is headed to the major and anything is not. So they have to win, I think, 2 series or 1 series Twisted Minds does to advance and take their world spot. In SAM, Complexity currently holds the 2nd world spot by 2 points over Team Secret. But again, Team Secret is headed to the major and Complexity is not. Chiefs Esports in OCE trail Pioneers for the final world spot by 2 points. But again, Chiefs will be at the major and Pioneers will not. So they need to win 1 series to make their world's spot a reality. And then last but certainly not least, we teased it a little bit. Oxygen is on the outside looking in at the World Championships, and only a top 2 finish or a win at the major will confirm their spot for the World Championship and knock Karmine Corp out of their world spot. So there's certainly a lot to watch for at this London major, outside of the main storylines of who's going to win, things like that, but how teams like Twisted Minds, Team Secret, and Chiefs are going to be able to do. Will they be able to secure themselves a World Championship spot? It's a very exciting time of the season, and I can't wait to see what happens with that.
Yeah, this is, I would be willing to say, one of the more rare situations or rare events that there's so many things on the table going into it. I mean, sometimes we've seen majors where it's like, oh, the worlds are already decided. I'm pretty sure that's kind of how it was with Boston. But this is like, man, there's one from, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of the 7 regions have spots open. It's going to be a battle, and I just can't wait to see what the matchups are going to be, because obviously that's what determines really everything here, especially for the 2 regions, Oceania and SAM, that require one win needed to make Worlds. So we'll see, but it's oh man, I'm so excited to watch some Rocket League. Copper Box is going to be bumping that weekend.
It certainly is. That would be one that I would like to go to. Unfortunately, I won't be able to, but that would be that's like top of the Rocket League event bucket list right there. Would be attending an event at the Copper Box. The fans have just been like historically so good. The chants have been fantastic. The Rocket League has been impeccable. So that's something I will be greatly looking forward to. At least just watching from home.
We get to watch it in Dickies.
Oh yeah. Oh
yes,
yeah.
sir.
But and then, our last kind of segment for today, so to speak, is we're going to be doing a top 10 tier list for the London Major. So this excludes Carmine Corps from this rankings because they will not be headed to the Major like we've said before. As we previously mentioned, the blue wall is not load-bearing, and they won't be there.
They needed a stronger I-beam, but it seems like they got the poor quality. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. So, this we may argue about a couple things. We may we may agree on most of them. Who knows? I kind of have started to list out a couple of mine, but they are subject to change. I think the way we do this is we go one by one, and we can kind of discuss them as we go. So, in your opinion, heading into the Major in London, who is your number one team in the world?
BDS, not a question.
Okay, we are on the same page there because I also agree. They've been there, done that. They've won a world championship before. They looked clinical in Major number 6. That's something that we've missed seeing from them, and in qualifier number 5, that's what they were lacking: clinical finishing ability. Drawley kind of was quiet, but they looked amazing, and I don't see any reason that they can't recapture that or continue that form in London.
I'm with you on that. That could be one of the few that we agree on, but I think that most people listening can agree that BDS has not been stopped, with the exception of Gentlemates. But we'll get to Gentlemates soon. I have my opinions on them.
Okay. So then, who do you have at that number 2 spot?
Tough choice. I honestly would give that to it's close between Vitality and G2. But given that G2 has been so good that this past regional for NA was just not close, I would give it to probably G2.
Okay. I just I don't see I don't see how you can keep. In addition, I don't see how you can keep G2 lower than 3. I could hear an argument for, but their worst finish was a second place finish in in anything.
Yeah, I don't think, I think we can all agree that EU this season is better than NA, so which is why BDS, a team that has been dominating the best region in the world, is first. So I don't think in any realm G2 belongs in number 1, but I think you're right. No, I don't see a reality where they belong anything less than 3 because they have dominated NA.
Yeah, and I mean, we've kind of already seen it so far this season, right? G2 losing 4-2 to Gentlemates, but G2 beats BDS 4-2, right? So the only time that they've played all season, G2 wins, but BDS has continued to stay consistent, as has G2. I think their recent form is amazing, but until we see lightning strike twice, I think you got to keep G2 at 2.
Yep, I think that's valid. I think there's other EU teams that compete with them, but yeah, again, realistically, number 2.
Okay, so we might differ on this one. I'll tell you my 3, and then you could give your thoughts. At 3, I'm gonna go Gentlemates.
Go Gentlemates at 3. Okay, I kind of like that take, honestly. I mean, placing or winning the first major is a solid take, but they have not performed. I would say they haven't performed, but there's just been other teams that have stepped up. But
actually, you know what? I've reconsidered. I'm not going Gentlemates at 3.
Okay, my choice would have been Vitality, because Vitality has been in. I know they have struggled. They've had their struggles after Regional 2, Regional 3, into Regional 4, but lately they've been really good. Really good. Didn't win this one, but they've just been a solid team. I think they've just gotten a tough pull in the top 8. I'm going to go Vitality at 3.
Okay. I'm going to go off the board here, actually, and change my original answer from Gentlemates. I'm going to go Team Falcons.
I would love to hear why.
They completed the perfect sweep. They swept all their majors. They did, fairly well in major number 1. They went through 3-1 in Swiss. They they barely lose out to Carmine Corps in the quarterfinals, and we all know how good Carmine Corps and Gentlemates and Vitality are, right? So I think that this is the event that Team Falcons breaks through into that top 4, specifically at a world caliber event. And I like the way that they play. I think that they will benefit from having like a full split together, another full split under their belt. So I have Falcons at 3.
I like it, but I would like to see more than 4 series from Falcons to make a decision on how well they can play against those other top teams. I think you make a very valid argument with that, but realistically, teams like Gentlemates that have been so good, I don't think it's fair to put a team that's only played against MENA teams above a team that won the first major, which is why Gentlemates goes at 4 for me.
Okay. I also have Gentlemates at 4. Because of a lot of what you said, they won the first event. They're very good on land so far that they've shown. They haven't always won the regionals in EU, but they're always there. They're always in the conversation. It's not really are they going to make top 8? They're probably going to make top 4, except for this last one where they miss out. But I think that they're a fantastic team. I like what they did, even if their run was a little bit surprising in Major 1. But they've been there. They play the best teams week in and week out with playing in EU. So I give them any team in EU really an advantage because of the level of competition that they have to play just to get points in their own region.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. That's a definitely a solid take. And it's honestly painful to drop them to 4, but just given the status of the other teams, I can't put them much higher, to be honest, based on their performance in the last couple of events. But yeah, I definitely think they belong in the top 4, no doubt.
Yeah. And then rounded out my top 5, I have Vitality. They are still the reigning world champions. It's kind of a what have you done for me recently kind of mindset for me, at least, but I did not think they performed very well. In the beginning of the season. They've certainly grown into it. As we continue on, they've had some better results recently, but I still feel like they don't have enough to get over the hump. So I could definitely see them as a playoff team. Definitely maybe even a top 4, but I don't see much more than that as an upside for them.
I can get behind that. But given the fact that they've been really cooking lately, haven't performed as far as top 4, top 2 as much, but they have come a long way from where they were a couple months ago. So I got to give them credit. They're really starting to get going again, and I think they're going to be really good at the major. At least I hope. But yeah, I think that's a good take. My number 5, I was gonna. You struck a little inspiration into me. I'm not gonna lie. I'll take Falcons at 5. Looking back at their stats, they took Gentlemates, I believe, or BDS to Game 7 at the first major. So yeah, they've been solid. I'll give Falcons number 5.
Okay. So in my opinion, this is where it starts to get interesting.
Yeah.
So I G2, in my opinion, is far and away the best NA team. I don't think it's super close.
Yeah. I would, yeah.
So at the beginning of the season, I would have said Gen G's right there. I don't think they are as much. So I think in my personal opinion, there's some room for to get fun here. And so at number 6, I'm gonna go Furia.
Furia?
Yep. Or
Why?
Furia.
Furia.
I'm a big fan of the team. I like the way that they play. They have a very high octane offense. They have 3 extremely mechanically gifted players in Yan, Lost, and Drafinho. They went back to Sam and they were able to lock up that number 1 seed pretty quickly. And I think that they didn't win the last event, but I think that they have as good a chance as like a G2, or sorry, not a G2, as like an SSG or a Gen G. In my personal opinion, I don't see any reason to put like Furia lower than Gen G. I think they're very similar in terms of ability. The only issue is the consistency isn't necessarily always there on the world stage for Furia.
Yeah, that's where I'm caught up, and you make some good points, but I don't know. The reason why I used to be a big fan of Furia back when they almost, I think they won Gamers 8, did they not? I'm pretty sure they did.
Yes, 2 years ago. Yep.
When they won Gamers 8, they were killer on lands, and they were a team that nobody wanted to play at lands, and I was like, man, this team's really good. I was always rating them. It's like top 4, top 5. And granted, the rosters may be different, but they've always been a solid team. Moving back to Sam, of course, they dominated there. But I have a little bit of a vendetta against Furia lately because I predicted them to go all the way at the last 2 majors that they made it to, and they lost in the first round. And I lost my bracket challenge because I had Furia taking it all the way, and they let me down. And I was disappointed. So, with that being said, you said the team that they are similar to is Gen G, and Gen G has been solid. Great team. That's why Gen G is going number 6. Furia, you can wait.
I feel like Furia has a high ceiling and a low floor.
Yes.
Right? Like, they could pop off and win, and I would not be surprised. Like, they have
Their
it in them.
volatility does not have my trust.
But they also
lost my trust.
Could make top 8 and get swept.
Who knows? It's a lottery.
It certainly is.
I have lost the lottery more than I have won it, so that's why Furia can wait.
That is fair. Okay. So we're at 7 now.
If you'd like me to go ahead and name my 7th team, I'd be glad to.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Furia.
Fair. Okay.
I think it's fair. It's between Furia and Oxygen for me because of how solid Oxygen has been. Oxygen is going to probably be my number 8, but I'll let you name your 7th team.
Oxygen. Like you said.
Okay.
Like, I think the addition of Joyo has only helped them. I think that they are a little bit late to the party after the roster move after Major 1. But, I like their team. I like what they bring. I think they're a fantastic team. They've put themselves in like behind the 8 ball, having to make a top 2. So I think that maybe the pressure knocks them a little bit further down my board. Pressure makes diamonds. However, we will have to wait and see if they actually will produce any.
Yeah, I think at this point, our top 7 are all the same teams. They're just in different places.
Yeah.
Actually, no, they're not, because I do not have... Wait, do you have Gen G in there somewhere?
Not yet.
Have you? Oh, you haven't named your 7th yet. Oxygen's going to be my 7th team. They've been on fire. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. I have Gen G next.
At 8.
At 8. Yep. And you had Oxygen 8. So like that's where I'm sitting right now. And it's interesting, right? Because maybe it's not interesting, right? Because major regions and, not so major regions, I think probably we'll both have 4 NA teams in the top 10 and 4 EU teams in the top 10, and then 2 at large. And I think for the most part, the at large are going to be Falcons and Furia. I just think that that's the way that it goes. But at number 9, I have Space Station.
See, I I want to support this team so bad. I want to support SSG so bad because Hoxer, LJ, those two, and the team in general, my God, they are one of the most terrifying teams. And obviously, with the addition of Chicago, is just terrifying. But they just haven't been performing to the level that I would have expected those three to perform at. And I don't know if I can trust them against teams in that skill range. But you look at who else is left on the table. I mean, it's tough. I don't see teams like Power, Chiefs, Team Secret,
Gladiators, Mobula,
getting
Power.
very close to them. But it's going to be close. I think Twisted Minds are going to be good. I think OG is going to be good. Space Station. Those are basically my bottom, the rest of my top 10. I guess top 11 because I just named 3 teams. But I don't know. I think I'm gonna take Twisted Minds over SSG here.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with a little bit of a hot take. You said those are at large, but I think they're gonna be at large and largely dominating. I don't know.
Okay. And that's your 9?
That's my number 9.
Okay.
Wait. Yeah, number 9.
Yeah.
I'm going with it. We're going with it. My brain is now off.
I'm going out there too.
My mind is twisted, and number 9 is gonna go Twisted Minds.
So, and this is maybe the CJ affinity coming in. I'm between 2 teams on this 10th one, and that being OG, Nolly, JNAP's Com. They've been there. You know, Com won a gamer is the reigning one of the Gamers 8 reigning champions. JNAP's has made a Worlds final before. Noli has won a major with Gen G and has performed on LAN before and done really well. And on the other hand, you have Power, Torsas Fever, Banana Head, and I think that that's a really good roster. I think this is the best iteration of Power that we have seen, the best iteration of an OCE team that we've seen, in my opinion, even though Chiefs is coached by Coach LBP, shout out Lachlan. I think Power has a good shot to do better than a lot of people expect them to at this major. I think that I think Power can take down Gladiators for sure. I think that they could take down Mobula. I think maybe even Team Secret isn't out of the question for them. So I think it's really going to depend on their draw. But I'm kind of torn between OG and Power for this 10th spot. And because I can see OG making playoffs, and I can also see them getting swept out. You know what I mean?
It's a very big toss-up, and I feel like the kind of when we're in the 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 range is where these teams could be they could go anywhere from 13th place to 8th or 7th. And honestly, these teams are so close. I don't disagree. I don't hate your take of Power here, but given the history of OCE's performance in a LAN, I'm going to take a team that is a little bit more seasoned in SSG for my 10th.
Okay.
Because, and it's tough between SSG and OG.
I agree.
I know people are going to hate me for my Twisted Minds take, and I don't care. Sue me.
I think that's a good one.
SSG or OG has got to go at 10. Whichever team that isn't there is going to go at 11. And I think that 12th spot is anyone's game between Power and Secret. But I don't hate the fact that you put them in your top 10 because you're right. This is the best iteration of that team that we've seen. They make almost every LAN from the OCE region. But given other circumstances such as jet lag, and I hate to throw that in there, but it is a real factor.
Yeah, it's 9-10. It's 8 hours of time change.
Yeah, and a full day of traveling, and it's a big change for these guys. And I'm not saying that they can't compete at the level that they're expected to in the top 10, But given those other circumstances, with it being literally the entire globe away, it's a tough call to make. But they've been there before, so I'd love to be proven wrong by Power here. They're a solid team, and I'd love to see them perform. But I've got to take SSG over them, NA team over OCE all day.
Yeah, I mean, and I did take Power for my 10th, but looking at some of we know the round 1 matchups for London, and Power has a first round matchup against Oxygen. Space Station has a first round date with the Falcons, and SSG Falcons, Oxygen Power. OG plays Furia. So depending on
great game,
depending on what you think about these teams, that's those are the first round matchups based on the teams that we were just talking about there. And notably, Johnny Boy tweeted out earlier on Sunday a global RLCS power ranking update for the last online event of the season. So heading into qualifier number 6, or for EU qualifier number 6, this includes everyone. So at 1, he has BDS, Falcons, G2, Vitality, Gentlemates, Carmine Corps, Oxygen, Gen G, Furia, and Space Station, rounding out the top 10. So
makes sense.
I agree. So there's certainly a lot to play for. There's certainly a lot to look forward to. Next week like I said, we'll be talking about our interview, and then we will be going into a major preview the week after that. So it'll be the 19th, and we look forward to hearing what you guys have to say. We'll certainly be talking about and tweeting out our predictions for the event, and we look forward to seeing you guys do the same thing. But is there anything else that you want to talk about before we wrap up for today?
Not about RLCS, man. Season 15 is going to be great. Good luck to everyone in their placement games. Hopefully you don't get DDoSed. My God, Epic, please fix it. I'm tired of getting DDoSed at every game I play. But no, seriously, it's going to be great. Can't wait to watch the major. And for those of y'all going out to Worlds, hopefully I'll see you there. But I'm not going to Copper Box. Too much money. Much money. But no, good luck to all the teams competing. Good luck to everyone in their placements again next season. Season 15, recording as of today. That season starts in about 14 hours. So good luck to everyone there. As always, thanks for listening, and thanks for having me on. It's always a blast.
Yeah, for sure. But with that, we will wrap up for today's episode. We'd like to thank you so much for listening. We'd like to remind you to please follow us on Twitter, Instagram, join our Discord, and rate us 5 stars wherever you listen to podcasts, as it really helps us out. Check out our Twitch, our TikTok, and YouTube, which now has all of our episodes now that Google Podcast has officially died. And also check out our merch store. We have a bunch of new t-shirt colors and options for you guys. All of these links and more can be found on our website at boostoverball.com. And from us here on the show, as always, remember to choose Boost over Ball.
Thanks for listening to the Boost Over Ball podcast. Make sure to check out our website at boostoverball.com.